So what we discussed last time was chapter 1, and we finished chapter 1 and we will begin chapter 2. Chapter 1 was observing the armies in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and chapter 2 is contents of the Gita summarized. So what did we learn? What did we learn from chapter 1? So I'll just quickly tell you the practical application as well, because that's very important. Whatever we study Bhagavad Gita, we need to know how do we apply that practically. Otherwise, no point. What is the point of studying something and we never apply it? And academical, this material education or academical education, whatever we have done or doing, do we know how do we apply in our real life practically? No, not every time. So most of the time, whatever we study, it's only just the book knowledge only. But with the ancient Vedic scriptures or the literature from ancient India, which was written more than 5,000 years ago, which is still valid and equally relevant even in today's modern age. So we will know how do we apply that practically only we hear from the bona fide authoritative sources. Like for the example, this Bhagavad Gita as it is written by A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada, he transliterated from Sanskrit language to English language in an easier way, and the purport or the commentary that he had given also very easy to understand. Okay. So chapter 1, we discussed that how the preparation of war and Arjuna's mood and his reactions to the war, and he was really worried about killing his own relatives because of his ignorance. And again we discussed Arjuna was a friend and a cousin of Sri Krishna. How can one be in ignorance when you are associated with the Supreme Lord himself, correct? This is because Krishna wanted to put Arjuna in a temporary ignorant position or illusion. That way Arjuna can question this for the future generations to come, because every day in our life we go through whatever that Arjuna has experienced. We are all going through in our day-to-day lives. Materially we are suffering, whether it's a health or it's a job or it's a relationship. Every day we have so many questions about why we are suffering in a certain way, why this is not happening or why this has happened. So many questions we have as well. So everything is answered in Bhagavad Gita as it is. Okay, there are so many commentators commented on the Bhagavad Gita, but again you need to follow one who has actually followed Bhagavad Gita himself, not something like for example, I'm telling you this is how you do it, but if I'm not following it, what is the point? There is no point following my instruction or whatever the instruction I'm giving you. Rather you can live your life in a way you like, correct? So we are following in the footsteps of previous acharyas. Acharya means in Sanskrit that who has lived by an example. Whatever they taught, that is how they lived as well. So in first chapter, the Lord's protection, Krishna came as Bhakta Vakshala and Saranya Vakshala. So Bhakta Vakshala means Krishna's position. We understood that he became a chariot driver for Arjuna. So Krishna, it is said in scriptures that he is the Supreme Lord, and others are his devotees only. And he himself declares that in Bhagavad Gita also. Lord Brahma says Krishna is the Supreme. We already understood that Krishna's supremacy. And Arjuna also tells Krishna is the Supreme. But still we are not following his instruction completely, because we don't have that faith. Only by accepting the spiritual master we can get that faith. Otherwise, if someone goes and reads Bhagavad Gita by themselves, they will never understand the real context of the subject matter. Rather they will speculate, they concoct, they just whimsically do things and think this is what it is said, but actually it is not. For example, Atma sometimes refers to body in Sanskrit, sometimes it's mind, sometimes it's intelligence, sometimes it's Krishna, sometimes it's Brahman. So many ways it is contextualized. So we need to understand which one it is referring to in that context. we will not understand unless we are following the instruction from the bona fide spiritual master or his representatives. So one thing we understood from first chapter is Krishna, even though he is in the supreme position, he came down as Bhakta Vakshala because he is a lover of devotees. Bhakta Vakshala means lover of devotees. And he became a menial servant, chariot driver for Arjuna. Okay. And also he is Saranya Vakshala. That means who surrenders to him fully, he gives his full protection. So that is what Arjuna surrendered, and therefore Krishna is giving him full protection. So chapter 2, so let's see the connection. So Sanjaya concluded that Arjuna was not ready to fight. He was not interested because of this ghastly warfare, giving him the bodily expressions that he started to almost faint, and he started to put his bow down. It already slipped from his hands, the bow, Gandiva bow, which he took vow that he never put it down, but it automatically slipped because he was so much in anxiety. Sometimes we also go through, we are sitting at the interview hall, we are ready to go attend the interview, our adrenaline starts to rush, and we get some dizziness and fainting, lot of expressions that we experience, the bodily expressions. Why? That's because of that less confidence, or mostly in this context it's ignorance. If you know whether you get the job or not, it is your duty to do the interview, then you will be relaxed, you will be calm. But like that, Arjuna, if he knows what he is going to do and what is the cause and effect, everything in detail, he will not be bewildered like that. So Dhritarashtra, who is the father of Kauravas, he wanted the war to take place, or Pandavas, for him, Dhritarashtra, the war to take place so that his sons can occupy the kingdom, or let these guys, the Pandavas, the 5 brothers of Pandu, the son of Maharaj Pandu, let them renounce the kingdom. If they say, what good guys will do, usually they say, oh, take it, I don't want it, let you enjoy. Let me go out of this kingdom and do whatever I can, and you enjoy. So that's what good people do, saintly people do, right? So they are not very envious or greedy towards any material possessions or fame or anything like that. So he was hoping that as well. Dhritarashtra was hoping, okay, if they renounce the kingdom, what will happen? My sons automatically conquer the kingdom and become king. Duryodhana will become king. So he is listening. So Dhritarashtra was listening the narration of Kurukshetra war from Sanjaya. It is his secretary. And Sanjaya got that vision, the spiritual vision, or Jnana Sakshu or Divya Jnana Sakshu, because of the blessings he received from Srila Vyasadev. Vyasadev is the one who wrote all the Vedas and Puranas, and he is the literary incarnation of Sri Bhagavan, Sri Krishna himself. Okay. And in this second chapter, Sanjaya, seeing Dhritarashtra hopeful of not losing the kingdom for his sons, began to describe how Krishna inspires Arjuna to fight. Now, in the entire chapter, Arjuna manifested a lot of bodily symptoms that he is not comfortable to fight. In the second chapter, at the very beginning also, he will continue to lament that, oh, I don't want to fight, I'm fearful of sinful reactions that I will get because of killing my own relatives. I will go to hellish planets. I don't want to, get the kingdom just for the sake of it, for the material enjoyment. So he is giving 5 reasons why, right? And therefore, Dhritarashtra is getting hopeful. Oh, I'm pretty sure this Arjuna will get out of this war and we will get the kingdom. But Sanjaya, who is very nice secretary, even though he is working for the people, adharmic people, still he is a devotee of the Lord in one sense. Not fully devoted, but still he follows the path of Krishna. And he was now going to narrate what more is going to happen to break that joy that Dhritarashtra is now experiencing, because that is very temporary. In this material world, whatever the joy or the suffering that we experience, they are mere temporary manifestations only. So first lesson we are going to learn from the second chapter is Guru. So when you are in the confused state in your life, whether it is in spiritual confusion or material confusion, whether you should go do more spiritual activities, or whether you wanted to pursue your career, or do something else materially, to become more prosperous, or health wise, whatever it is, we now and then we do experience that bewilderment, the perplexion, confusion, what to do next, whether should I take it or not, what happens if I do this. And so many times we are confused in our lives when there is a suffering. When you are in the happy mood, you are not confused, you are actually fine. Absolutely, you are fine, you are not confused or anything. But scientifically, when you are happy, extremely you are in ecstatic mood, you are not supposed to make any decisions. Again, same goes when you are in real depression or anxiety. Again, you should not make any decision. Decision has to be rational, not emotional. Rational comes when you have the knowledge to rationalize things and discriminate what is right and what is wrong. For you, something is right is actually wrong to me. But what actually right and what is actually wrong is written in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, scriptures like that, which are the essence of all Vedas. So you don't have to go through 108 Upanishads, 4 Vedas, and 18 Puranas. You don't have to. If you simply study Bhagavad Gita under the instruction of bona fide authoritative sources, right, then you will get the knowledge, the transcendental knowledge, whatever you need to know. So this is the first lesson we will be getting, Guru. And then we will start the verses, right? So the first verse, let's go to the verse. Okay. So anyone can read the translation. I'll just read the verse. Sanjaya uvacha tam tata kripaya vistam mashrupurna kulekshanam visidantam idam vakyam uvacha madhusudanaha. Anyone like to read?
Sanjaya said, seeing Arjuna full of compassion, his mind depressed, his eyes full of tears, Madhusudana, Krishna spoke the following words.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go to the next verse. So it's just introduction, not introduction, it's just continuation of Krishna and Arjuna's bodily manifestation of that experiences. So his mind depressed, his eyes full of tears, and he is calling Madhusudana, Krishna as Madhusudana. Why? Because he is the killer of the demon called Madhu. So Arjuna wanted Krishna to kill the ignorance that Arjuna has in his mind. Ignorance means what? Lack of knowledge. When you do not have the knowledge about something, you need someone to enlighten you, right? You need to go to someone superior who is already who has already been through, or who has already experienced through shastrical knowledge. They don't have to experience literally through bodily platform, but even if they have experienced mental platform, they are fit for to give instructions to us. So text 2. Shri Bhagavan uvacha kutastva kasmalamidam vishame samupastitam anarya justam asvargyam akirtikaram Arjuna. Can someone read this translation, please?
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear Arjuna, how have these impurities come upon you? They are not at all befitting a man who knows the value of life. They lead not to higher planets, but to infamy.
Okay. So in this verse there are keywords here: kasmalam, and then anarya, akirtikaram Arjuna. So there are so many keywords in this verse, second verse. And in this chapter mainly we will see how Arjuna is taking shelter of Krishna as a spiritual master. and also how Krishna is enlightening Arjuna just because of that fact that Arjuna now surrendered to Krishna as a spiritual master, and Krishna accepted the role. He was initially as a chariot driver. Now he will accept the role in the 7th verse, we will see, as a guru. And then guru's job, what is the duty of a guru? To enlighten his disciple. So that is what he will do. Now he starts to chastise. Before, Arjuna and Krishna would engage in very friendly relationship before. They sit and eat together, and they play, they tease each other, they joke with each other. They do all sorts of things as how one cousin would treat other cousin, just naturally. And now the things are becoming very serious, and Arjuna is not in his he lost his composure. So let's see here. So kasmalam means impurities. Krishna is asking, what are you talking about, Arjuna? Where these impurities came from? It sounds like anarya. Arya means one who is civilized with spiritual knowledge, one who is educated spiritually. And anarya means one who is the opposite of it. So where these are coming from, where these impurities are coming from. So that is his point. And the other points we will see in the second verse is that the result of non-Aryan act. So what will happen if you are not spiritually educated? You can have PhD, academically you are very big man or something, but you don't know how to handle little emotions in your life, day-to-day life. Then what is the point of educating yourself materially, academically, when you don't know how to deal with these material situations that come and go, like summer and winter, suffering and happiness come and go, that we will see in verse 14 or 15 in the same chapter. So the results of non-Aryan act is for Arjuna in this case, people will think Arjuna is a coward. He wanted to quit the war and just get out of it. He wanted to run away from the situation. If we are given one situation and if we can run away from it, what we will choose? Whether we overcome the situation, conquer the situation, or we run away from the situation. It depends on the spiritual knowledge and the spiritual strength we have. At the moment, because Arjuna is very weak, that is why he is not ready to fight. Therefore, if he doesn't fight in the war, what Kshatriyas will achieve after the war, when they die, they go to heavenly planets. Okay, so there is no loss for Kshatriyas when they engage themselves in the welfare of the prajas. Prajas means all the citizens, including birds and animals in the kingdom. When he engages in such war, even if he engages in the war in the adharmic side or dharmic side, doesn't matter. His destination after he dies, when he leaves the body, when the soul leaves the body from his Kshatriya body to next life, he will go to heavenly planets. That's what Shastras say. So Arjuna is not going to get the higher planets, because he is not going to do, if he is not going to engage himself in the war, if he is not going to fight, where there is there is no dying, and then no dying, at least for that moment. Of course everyone takes birth, will die, but at least for that moment he is not dead, means he is not going to the heavenly planets. And then other thing is no spiritual progress either. So that is his point. That are the points that we are going to learn. And here first time Sri Bhagavan Uvacha is coming in this chapter. Already one time it came in first chapter, but now he is going to speak, right? And Bhagavan, why Krishna is Bhagavan? That is because we already discussed and understood the supremacy of Bhagavan. It is said in the Eta Cha Amsa Kalapumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, said in Bhagavatam. And then Parasura Muni says Bhagavan means one possesses all 6 opulences: wealth, knowledge, renunciation, beauty, fame, strength, and everything like that, power. So that is also proven that Krishna possesses everything as per the scriptures. And Brahma Samhita, Lord Brahma himself says that Krishna Sarva Karana Karanam, and he is the Ishvara, Parameshwara. So many places we saw the evidence of why Krishna is called Bhagavan, therefore we accept he is Bhagavan as per the proof that we have already studied. Okay, so the third verse, Klaibyam sma gama partha naitatvayupapadyate shudram hridaya daurbalyam tyakto uttista parantapa. So here it is because of his weakness of heart. Arjuna is saying uttista parantapa, uttista Govinda uttista garadad bhaje uttista kamala kanta trilokyam mangalam kuru. So the uttista means what? Get up. So he wanted to, let's see the here, where is that verse here? This is Arjuna Uvacha. So he is saying that, O killer of enemies. Is it the verse? No. Not this one. The third one. O son of Pritha, do not yield to this degrading impotence. It does not become you. Give up such petty weakness of heart and arise, O chastiser of the enemy. So here, sometimes Krishna is called Parantapa and Arjuna is also referred as Parantapa. Here, it is Arjuna. It is not Krishna is saying. This verse is spoken by Krishna. And Krishna is saying, Uttista means get up, arise from this weakness of your heart, petty weakness of your heart. Okay, what is this kind of impotence? Where this is coming from? Degrading impotence. So why Krishna is chastising Arjuna already? As soon as Krishna accepted the role of Guru, he started to chastise. Because that is the role of Guru. The real Guru, the bogus Guru, what they will do? Get the money from innocent people and then they cheat the innocent people. Correct? And tell them, you do whatever you wanted to do to enjoy your material life. And sometimes you do this yagya and that yagya, you will be fine. So this is not a correct way of teaching the disciples, correct? But the bogus Guru, for the money, for the sake of money, they just do that. But Krishna here, who is the Supreme Lord, and he is not deprived of any money because millions and millions of goddess of fortunes are serving him every single minute. Therefore, he is not, he is not in need of anything, fame or, money or anything like that. So his job, he is doing his duty perfectly. So he has started to chastise Arjuna that, come on, just get up, fight. So what is the duty of Kshatriya? Just come and fight. Kshatriya's duty is to fight fight against the adharmic people, correct? So we will see in here. Can anyone read the first section, duty of Kshatriya?
Duty of Kshatriya. Reference Parashara Smriti explains the duty of Kshatriya. To protect citizens from all difficulties, apply violence for law and order, conquer inimical kings, rule the world according to religious principles. Kshatriyas are never meant for directly accepting the order of sannyasa. Non-violence in politics may be diplomacy, but it is never a factor of principle.
Correct. So the main point here is Kshatriya means he has to be against the adharmic followers and re-establish the dharma. That is the Kshatriya duty. Correct. And the doctor's duty is to save the patient's life, right? Naturally. If the doctor is not doing that, but rather killing the patient, but these days doctors are actually killing the patients, unfortunately, knowingly or unknowingly, which we don't know. But this is the duty of Kshatriya to save the citizens, protect the citizens from all difficulties, whether they are deprived of money or any other things like job or children or their future, whatever it is. Duty of Kshatriya is to give them the protection and whatever necessary things. Olden days, if a young child dies, then it is the citizens will blame the king and tell the king hasn't done his duty properly, he didn't follow the Raja Dharma, right? Therefore we are suffering like this. The citizens in olden days, Vedic days, they blame the king. Whatever that happens, bad things happen in this, in the kingdom, they blame the king for that, because the Raja is not following the dharma, Raja dharma, Raja dharma or Kshatriya dharma. So now you can imagine our leaders, our so-called political leaders, whatever they are doing, we can see how much suffering we are going through, correct? So the economical degradation, environmental degradation, medicinal, pharmaceutical, bogus things, so many things we see, and the slaughterhouses, animal killing, legalized animal killing. So these things are happening because we don't have the right leaders with the right spirit or the right mood. All they wanted is, what's in it for me? That is their mood. But Vedic days, what I can do for you. So that is their mood. Humble and very protective towards the citizens. And non-violence, see, for Kshatriya, they need to be violent, because for Adharmic people, they need to fight against them. They need to hunt animals so that the sages in the forest, they can peacefully do their meditation, yagyas. If there are animals coming and killing the sages are doing the yagyas for the welfare of the kingdom only, correct? But when the animals come and kill, then they can't do that, and the welfare of the kingdom will be degraded. For so many reasons, the Kshatriyas have to be really violent and very aggressive, for a good reasons, for a set of good reasons. And non-violence in politics may be diplomacy. So that is what Prabhupada says. Why? Because it doesn't work. You can be diplomatically non-violent, but that's not gonna work. Okay, that's not a proper principle of being a Kshatriya. And training of a Kshatriya, trained for challenging and killing, because religious violence is a necessary factor. How they are trained, would go to forest, challenge tiger face to face, which we already discussed, right? Okay, so next verses 4 to 6. How can I contract in battle men like Bhishma? Let's see here. Okay, verse number 4. Arjuna uvacha kadam Bhishmam aham sange dronam cha madhusudana ishibhihi pradiyotsyami puja arhava arisudana. Okay. Translation. Arjuna said, O killer of the enemies, O killer of Madhu, how can I counteract with arrows in battle men like Bhishma and Drona, who are worthy of my worship? See, Arjuna's grandfather is Bhishma, and his guru, who taught him all the archeries, the martial skills, the Dronacharya. Okay, so they are in the opposite army. So Arjuna's job is to kill the opposite army, the enemies, correct? And they are also in the group of the opposite parties. So Arjuna is now raising a question to Krishna that, how can I kill my grandfather and my teacher? Will you kill your grandfather Ugrasena or your teacher Sandipani Muni? Will you do that? Then why are you asking me to do that? It is not said in the verse, but Acharyas give that question in the purport, so that you can understand the mood of Arjuna. If someone asks you to do something, but if they can't do it themselves, then you will question, will you do it? Then why are you asking me to do it? Like that. But if we understand properly why the person is telling you to do what to do, whatever they are asking you to do, then you'll do it, correct? At this moment, Arjuna is still in the state of ignorance that Krishna has intentionally put Arjuna in. Okay, and text 5. Gurun ahatva hi mahanupavan shreyo bhoktum vaikshim apihalohe hatva takamam stu guruneheva punjiya bohan rudra pradigdan. So this is interesting verse number 5. Can someone read this verse, please?
It would be better to live in this world by begging than to live at the cost of the lives of great souls who are my teachers. Even though desiring worldly gain, they are superiors. If they are killed, everything we enjoy will be tainted with blood.
So now Arjuna is ready to go live by begging, then kill these great personalities in the opposite army, and then get this kingdom. But the kingdom is actually tainted with blood. So what he is receiving is not the kingdom, but rather the sins for killing those great personalities like Bhishma and Drona. See, this tells us Arjuna is being very compassionate. Naturally, he is a devotee of the Lord, therefore he is always soft-hearted, compassionate, which we discussed it already, right, from the first chapter itself. Now he is manifesting again or more of those personalities or the qualities that he possesses. In Duryodhana's side, they are ready to kill, like they are killing people like as if they are killing animals, so they don't have any mercy or compassion. But here Arjuna, before even the war is going to take place, of course they are already ready in the middle of the war, but still, the battlefield I mean, but still he is thinking about the future, what will happen to the kingdom and his future for the next life, and the wives that would lose their husbands in this battlefield, and what will happen to them and their children, and what will happen to the forefathers who have died already. They are waiting for the Pindadana, the ancestors' worship, which will have to be done by the future generation. If they don't do it because they don't know, all of them died, who will they teach them how to do those? So they don't do it anymore. Then what happens? They are deprived of going to higher planets. They will hang around in the material world, in the ghostly planet or material other part of the planets, right? They will never get liberated. So there are so many factors Arjuna is foreseeing in his mind and telling to Krishna that how, this is not good. So now he is ready to renunciate the kingdom and become a beggar. Will we do that? So that is Arjuna's, one of the good qualities that he has. Text number 6. Nachayata vidma katarano gariyo yatva jayame yadivano jayahu yaneva hatvana jijiva samas te avastata pramukhe dhritarashtraha. Translation. Oops, did I lose that? So, translation, nor do we know which is better, conquering them or being conquered by them. If we kill the sons of Dhritarashtra, we should not care to live. Yet they are now standing before us on the battlefield. So, Arjuna is now very clear that he is confused. Sometimes we will know for sure, definitely, I am doomed. I'm confused. I don't know what to do. I'm sure, I'm clear on that I don't know what to do. That is the position now Arjuna is in the moment. So he can see the parties of Dhritarashtra or Duryodhana are ready to kill. Whether he is going to kill them, being against them, going to be against them or not, they are going to kill them. Kill Pandava's side. But now Arjuna doesn't know what to do. Whether conquer them or not conquer them. Or that means being conquered by them. Which is better? He doesn't know. See, this is when we need to learn that when we are in frustration and inability to make sound decisions or come to sound conclusions, then we need Guru, bona fide spiritual master. So text 7 is very important. This is where Arjuna is surrendering to Krishna and accepting Krishna as the spiritual master. Karpanya dosa upahata swabhavaha prachami tvam dharma sammuda chetaha yashreyasyanistam buruhi tanme shishyate aham sadi mam tvam prapannam. I keep losing that when I press the down key. Okay, so can someone read this translation, please?
Now I am confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of my surly weakness. In this condition, I am asking you to tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me.
So there is an analogy given in this purport by Srila Prabhupada that the forest fire takes place on its own accord. You don't have to set fire, it will happen naturally. Similarly, material perplexities, that we go through in our day-to-day life, sometimes we feel so healthy and then other time we feel sick, or sometimes we, lose maybe our loved ones. Like last Sunday, I lost my dear uncle because of coronavirus, which is heartbreaking because we never expected that would happen at all. He was only 63 years old. So these kind of situations come to anyone at any point in our life. So when we do not have a proper understanding of what is matter, what is soul, what is spirit and what is matter, and who are we, what is the purpose of our human life, if we do not understand all these factors, then the forest fire, things will come and go. The world situation is full of perplexities, right? What happens, whether you desire for it or don't desire for it, it will come on its own accord. And you have to develop that spiritual strength within and without. For that you need a guru. Correct? So please remember, always seek advice from the bona fide authoritative sources. How can I seek guru? Krishna will guide you. So you will pray to Krishna that to show you guru, and he will give you the guru. Okay, because we are with our material senses, we are very limited. We can't even see things from far. Our eyes go blurred. We can't hear things from far. But if it is too noisy, you can't hear it clearly. If it is too close, you can't see it properly. So it has to be at certain distance for hearing or seeing. And speaking also, you have only a limited ability to make the loud noise or go very softly speaking or whatever. So everything has a limited capacity because we have material body, right? But when we accept the superior, the guru who has seen the truth, then tatvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. And that is, we will see that in 4th chapter. When we accept the guru in the guru parampara, you can't just go and get guru from like a supermarket or something. You have to accept a guru from the guru parampara, the disciplic succession. Then your life will become successful. Until you get a guru, you pray to Krishna. Until you ready to pray to Krishna, just hear these classes. Just come to these classes, attend these classes, analyze, observe, analyze and apply. So main point of reading, studying Bhagavad Gita sincerely and scrutinizingly is to apply in our lives. It's not just the Shastras, it's not just like one of other Vedas that it is said and we just study it because we have 1 hour every week or something. No. This is for eternity of our life. This study, the knowledge, whatever you are studying now, Swalpa apiyashya dharmashya trayate mahato bhayat. Krishna says in chapter 2 only, even if you have done only little bit of this Bhagavad Dharma, only little bit study of Bhagavad Gita, little bit understanding, then you will be able to overcome the greatest fear or danger in your life, whatever it is. For me, the greatest fear may be lizard. For you, the greatest fear may be fear of death. It depends on person to person. But whatever the greatest fear, naturally, logically, everyone's greatest fear is death of one's own self or the loved ones. Whether we agree or not, that is true. How can we overcome that fear? That is taught in Bhagavad Gita. Okay. So in verse 8, Arjuna continuing to say, I can find no means to drive away this grief. Okay, so he's telling that. Okay, we'll just read the translation. Can anyone read the translation, please?
I can find no means to drive away this grief which is drying up my senses. I will not be able to dispel it even if I win a prosperous, unrevealed kingdom on earth with sovereignty like the demigods in heaven.
See, you can go to psychiatrist. You can go to a big PhD medical specialist for our anxiety or whatever that we are going through in our life. But you can never purchase the peace or happiness from them. You will never. Maybe you will be given some medications which will make your brain to stop giving signals, whatever the negative signals to your other parts of the body. So they can mechanically, temporarily, they can put a stop on it, but that will aggravate other side effects which you will never come aware of. Okay, so there are so many case studies where one English medicine that you take that gives so many other side effects. I personally have these problems. For my arthritis I take medicine, but that has brought so many other side effects. Okay, then now I'm doing Ayurveda to reverse those side effects. So when we engage our life in a natural, as close as possible, natural way, then the problems that come from outside, the external sources, can be minimized. Therefore, our peace and happiness will naturally incline. Otherwise, what we are doing is spending our money in those medications, thinking that will cure our problems or diseases. But when they are actually putting a cream on the skin disease, but the actual skin disease is within the root cause of the skin disease, may be blood impurity, but they are giving you only cream for the external skin dryness. But the Ayurveda, like this Vedic knowledge, Ayurveda is one of the Atharva Veda. It gives the knowledge about the lifestyle, how one should live, how one should live naturally, like close to the nature. So then we will understand what is the root cause of my disease and then solve that root cause, then you will be fine, right? So this is how Bhagavad Gita treats as well. It touches the root cause of the problem and it eliminates that root cause, the worry, the root cause of our worry, that will be eliminated. And who can be Guru, that is discussed in this purport, right? And also the other example is given in Aranyaka Upanishad. It is said, so the Kripanna and Brahmana. Kripanna means one who is miser. You have a lot of money, but you are not ready to spend those money. Then what is the point of having those money? You don't know how to enjoy. Then what is the point? So Brahmana means one who is broad-minded. Similarly, when you have a human form, but you don't know how to live like a human, rather you simply engage yourself in eating, mating, defending, and what? Eating, mating, defending, and sleeping. If you are only doing those 4 activities, animals also doing that. They are also doing that very well. Okay. But what is the difference between us and animals? That is discussed. So because we are in human form, we need to understand there is something superior that we needed to achieve, not just those 4 activities that animal also can achieve. For that only we can seek the spiritual knowledge, and therefore we can apply those knowledge, and then we can achieve the human goal, which is to get out of this material world, the cycle of birth and death. So which we discussed it, and the skin disease is discussed as we think, I am the one who has to protect my family. If I don't exist, then who will take care of my family? That is one kind of skin disease. And the other one is, my family only can save me, no one else can save me. This is also another way of thinking. So when we do not have the signs of self-realization, then we are simply living an animal life. That is what's said in Aranyaka Upanishad. So we are wasting this human body. When you have a Mercedes car, you have a very luxurious car, but you don't know how to use the car, and you are going to the agricultural field and you are plowing the field. What will happen? It will damage the car. Correct? So you have that very fantastic car, but you are using it for something not fit. So the tractor will do the job. Like that, we are using our material body, which is human body, which is very superior than animal's body, simply to live the life for the sake of material sense gratification, just to eat and sleep and watch TV, and that's all. We have to maintain our body. It is not that you can't do the things that I've said. You have to do that just to maintain your body, but to maintain our soul, we have to seek the spiritual knowledge, which is not available in your academical qualifications whatsoever. So we have to seek the spiritual knowledge from the spiritual authorities. And Brahmana means one who is intelligent and utilizes the human body to solve the real problems of life. Real problem is not, oh, summer is coming, what do? I don't like summer. Oh, winter is coming, I don't like winter. This is not real problem of life. Real problem is that you are still in this material world. You need to get out of this material world by doing this scientific realization. Do surrendering to the Supreme Lord and serve the Lord. That is our goal. And then we will never have to take birth again and again. And what is the mood for learning Bhagavad Gita? We already discussed we have to approach bona fide Guru. What is the mood? What was the mood of Arjuna? Correct mood is he stopped the friendly talks. No more friendly talks. Now serious. Surrender it to Krishna as the first disciple of Bhagavad Gita. What is the incorrect mood? Mundane scholars say that there is no need to submit to Krishna but to unborn within Krishna. See, they just do this type of nonsensical talk and not understanding the actual, crux of Bhagavad Gita, and then they make up the story that Krishna doesn't exist, it's all metaphor, Arjuna doesn't exist, Krishna doesn't exist, it's just the mind and you. They just make up all these stories. Therefore, he is called the greatest fool with respect to understanding Bhagavad Gita. I already mentioned we cannot understand Bhagavad Gita if we read it by ourselves. We need Guru to guide us. So when we turn away from God, we invite sufferings, which is true. When we fully surrender to the Lord, when you know someone is looking after us, when a boy is crossing the road by himself, he will become very fearful of crossing the road and thinking, what if the truck comes and hits me? What if this happened, that happened? He will be full of anxieties, right? He will be full of anxieties. But when he is holding his father's hand, what happens is he is peaceful. He doesn't care about the truck coming or anything, even the signal. He will not worry about anything. He will be happy and peaceful because he is holding his father's hand. He has the full faith and trust with his father. He is peaceful. Similarly, Krishna saying, Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo, everything comes from him. Aham Bija Pratapitah. See, he is saying that I am the father, seed giving father of everyone, not just humans, but everyone, all living entities, Devi Devas, and also the animals, birds, and everything. So, when that is the case, then we will not be suffering in this material world. So, these kind of activities we are indulging in, but we are not seeking the self-realization. So, that is the point we are trying to make here. Like naughty children, the forgetful living entities become attracted to the glittering illusion of false beauty of the objects of this material world. So we think we are getting happiness from the money or friends or McDonald's, for example. So we think that happiness is there, but it is temporary. Yes, you are experiencing happiness, very minute, but it is also temporary, and it is not conducive for our science of self-realization. Rather, it is detrimental only. And lesson 2. So this is Atma Jnana. We are going to learn identity. Who are you? So who are you? People would say, I am an Indian, I am an American, I am so and so, I am John Smith, I am Jane Smith. So we always connect ourselves to bodily conception. So here Dr. Harry Monson he discovered, surprisingly, our body consists of these chemical composition. Okay, 5 pounds of calcium, 1.5 pounds of phosphate, and so and so. So what? So if you are this, if you think you are this body, because you're talking about your bodily conception, right? You're thinking I am American, I'm an Indian, or like that, and you don't know, you haven't come to the conclusion where you're not this body, but you're still thinking you're this body, then let's see how, what is your value. So your value is only $110 or pounds or something like that, because that's how much the calcium values, the value of calcium or iron or phosphorus, like that. But is it true? So we only valued for this much? Certainly not. Correct? Because we are ready to spend millions of dollars to save a patient or our loved ones, for heart transplantation or whatever transplantation or kidney problem. We are ready to spend that much money to save that body. But if the body only worth $110 or something, then why do we spend so much money on that? Correct? So we need to understand that our body is more than just the chemicals. Like we are not body, but we are more than we are worth more than just the chemicals in the body. So dying, some cinema actresses die after this infamy. So why all that? If we are only worried about our body, then then only the chemicals. If the body is consist of only chemicals, then why we are so much worried about it? Actually, we are worried about the soul, the self. Okay, so I just quickly go through this. So when the body is there, when there is no consciousness, there is no symptoms of living entity there is no symptom of consciousness, then what we say, it is a dead body. The body is always dead only, dead matter. But when there is a living soul within, that's when the body is alive. That's when it matters to us, correct? Okay, I'll stop here, and I may ask, if you have any questions. Any questions, anyone?
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hari Bol.
Mataji, my question is we saw the duties of Kshatriya, and then towards end we saw about Brahmana. So how do we know which class we belong to? Is it based on our birth or based on our whatever we do karma?
Very nice question. We will study that in 4th chapter. Chaturvarnam Maya Shrishtam Guna Karmaga Vibhagasha. So the Chaturvarnam, that is Varnashram Dharma, the Varnas and 4 Varnas and 4 ashramas, like Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Sudra, and Brahmachari, Grahastha, Vanaprastha and Sannyasi. These 4 Varnas and ashrams are not based on one's birth, it is based on one's qualities. One may be born in the Sudra family, and if he behaves like a Brahmana, with the Brahmana has its qualities, we will study that in later chapters. At the end of Bhagavad Gita, we will study the qualities of Brahmana and Kshatriya and everyone. So when they have developed the qualities of forgiveness, tolerance, patience, and broad-minded, and learning Vedas and giving the knowledge to others, these kind of Brahmanical qualities, when someone manifests, then we should understand, even though they are born in the low caste, low born family, they are still entitled to be called as a Brahmana. But in Kali Yuga, Prabhupada said that everyone is like Shudras, because we haven't developed those any other qualities. Rather, we are simply serving someone else. Okay. In the cases of Vedic days, it was very, very focused and determined in a way that, yes, the Brahmanical society and Satriyas, and there are other paths like Vaishyas and Sudras. It's all categorized perfectly well, and it was followed by each and every individual. But in Kali Yuga, people are very like pranaya alpashya sabayo manda bhagya upadrita. I mean, there is a verse in Bhagavatam 1.1.10. It is said that Kali Yuga people has these qualities, which is like they are always disturbed, and they are dull-headed, they have short memory, they are short-lived. You see, so many people die at their early ages, yeah, because of all these qualities already foretold by the great acharyas like Vyasadeva. So therefore, in Kali Yuga, we haven't developed those qualities. Simply, what we need to do as a sadhaka, we follow Hare Krishna chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. When we do those, we will come above those 4 varnas and ashramas and become devotees. So Vaishnavas are superior than these 4 varnas and 4 ashramas. The 4 varnas and 4 ashramas are given by Krishna only. He only designed it for the people who are in lower modes of material nature, so that they can gradually elevate themselves for following the righteous path in a regulated way, following regulative principles, and then slowly they pick up to dharma, that means following righteous duties, to artha, using in right dharma, following right dharma, you are getting some money, economical development, and then kama, then you enjoy in a regulated way, sense gratification, but in a regulated way, and then moksha, liberation. But for devotees, we are never interested in liberation. We are only interested in serving the Lord and his devotees. So simply by chanting, we become aloof to this 4 varnas and ashramas, and we are not worried about what we belong to, because we are simply following the acharya's path. Whatever the instruction given in Bhagavad Gita. Just hear Bhagavad Gita and give that knowledge to others. Sharing is what we are supposed to do, right? So, for example, if I send you something nice related to Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam that will enlighten the souls, then we should forward it. Simply forwarding it is a kirtanam. You don't have to preach yourself. If you don't know how to preach to others, like how to give this knowledge to others, it is all right. You simply repeat, exactly that is what I'm doing, right? It's not my own intelligence. I'm just simply repeating what is already spoken many times by acharyas and the Vaishnavas. So when we do that, we will attain perfection of the life. So Varanashra Dharma were used to attain perfection only up to moksha. But what we achieve is bhakti, which is beyond those dharma, artha, kama, moksha, 4 purusharthas. Does it answer your question, Deepti?
Mataji, just to add to the question, so do we categorize Arjuna as a Kshatriya or Vaishnava? Which category should get?
Okay, just for the duty platform, he is in the Kshatriya level, although he is a Vaishnava. He is a great Vaishnava. But for the duty, even though we are Vaishnavas, we are doing our duties, right? Like even though we chant Hare Krishna, but I am inclined to do teachings, for example, but still I'm not in a Brahmanical order. I'm not a Brahmana. I'm not initiated as Brahmana, or I don't demonstrate all those Brahmanical qualities. So we are all in somewhere between here and there. Some little bit of Shudra, little bit of Vaishya, little bit of... I'm not Vaishya. I can say my father is more of Vaishya than Sudra, like that. I am more Sudra. Like Sudra means labor class. So I work for my bank. That's all I do. I don't run any business. Even though my father runs a business, I'm not interested in it. Like that. For Pandavas, they are all Vaishnavas only. But their duty, dharma that they have to follow, Bhagavad Dharma only he is following. Even though he is a Kshatriya, he is following Bhagavad Dharma. He is following the instruction of Krishna, which is Bhagavad Dharma. Right?
Okay. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Mataji, in that duties of Kshatriyas, we have one point that said Kshatriya should not directly accept the order of the sannyasa. So does that mean that he should not take up that sannyasa diksha?
So, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, there are Shudras cannot take sannyas. So, there are in Vedic days, there were rules or dharma, we would say, that they should not take sannyas. Why? Because Kshatriya has a duty to protect his citizens until end of his life. Only at the very end of his life he can go take sannyas, and of course he can do that. Parikshit Maharaj did that. Not sannyas as such, but renunciating from the material, the kingdom, the material affairs, and then no more politics, no more family life, and I'm going to take up the path of devotion full time. That is sannyas. Real meaning of sannyas is renunciating from the material affairs and going fully into spiritual. And that's what Parikshit Maharaj did, and Bharata Maharaj did. So many exalted personalities did that. So does it mean Kshatriyas cannot take renunciation or become sannyas? No. But it means that not at early age. Not like Arjuna is so young and he hasn't even attained the kingdom, conquered the kingdom as yet. He has big jobs to do. Now he want to go and live by begging? That's not acceptable by Krishna. That is not correct. So that is why it is said that he can't take renunciation. And also Kshatriya Dharma is they should be only worried about 3 Purusharthas: Dharma, Artha and Kama, not Moksha. Because they have to look after the citizens. Only doing Dharma, Artha and Kama they can achieve that. With Moksha, if they are interested in Moksha, who will look after the citizens, right? But when a devotee becomes a king or the leader, then he will give them all bhakti, which is again aloof to the Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Okay, so we need to look at the sastrical perspective as Varnashram Dharma, but in the eyes of transcendental knowledge also, which is very important for us, which is more important for us. Okay, does it answer your question?
Yes, Mataji, thank you.
Any other questions?
Hi Krishna Mataji, I just have one last question.
Yes.
So like regarding choosing a guru, like if we check the disciplic succession and search for a guru, like for example at ISKCON we have so many gurus. So how do we choose among the gurus in the disciple who comes in the disciplic succession? How do we choose the guru from that?
Yes. So I mentioned during our class also that we need to pray to Krishna sincerely to send me a guru, because we have limited knowledge, right? We have limited sense perception. So we are akshajas. Krishna is adokshaja. He is beyond the material sense perception. So to see the spiritual master, we haven't developed any qualities for that as yet, correct? Therefore, we sincerely pray to Krishna, please send me a guru. Who should I accept as my guru? And then when he gives you indication, in my personal life, I experienced the exact same thing, because I was confused, there are so many gurus in ISKCON. I definitely wanted to take initiation from ISKCON because they are bona fide organization from the Brahma Madhava Gaudiya Sampradaya. So I wanted to take that. But I didn't know who to take, right? There are so many gurus, and I had interest in few who will give you easy initiation like that. I had interest in that, but that is not the right mood, correct? Because I was new and I didn't develop those right mood. But then I asked one senior devotee, His Grace Gangeshwar Prabhu, and he said that you should pray to Krishna sincerely. And then I started to pray to Krishna sincerely. Then within our heart, as Paramatma, Krishna residing in everyone's heart, he will strongly guide you. He guided me. And my Guru Maharaj is His Holiness Jayapataka Swami, and my first Siksha Guru, His Grace Manamohan Prabhu, he gave a picture of deities from Mayapur. In that picture, he also gave the picture Jayapataka Swami Guru Maharaj in that picture. So when he gave, that time I was not interested in seeking guru that time, right? But after started serving this picture unknowingly, this is called Ajnana Sukruti. Ajnana Sukruti means unknowingly serving the devotees. Unknowingly offering lamp and flowers and incense sticks and everything and boha. Automatically somehow I received their causeless mercy, ahaitukam. Brahmanda Kodi Bhagyavan Jiva Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lada Beecha. So we take billions of birth in these billions of big Brahmandas, big universes, we take birth, and then finally, by the mercy of Guru Krishna Prasade Pai, by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, what happens is Bhakti Lada Beach. So the bija means seed of Bhakti Lada. Lada means plant. The seed of the Bhakti plant will start to creep by the mercy of Guru and Krishna. Okay. So and then I then realized after this while, after started praying to Krishna, then Paramatma inside within giving me the instruction. Look, it could be my mind, but I take it as Paramatma, okay, because I'm not an exalted personality like someone who can hear Paramatma's voice. No, I'm not that. But at least I had a realization, I had a strong feeling that maybe this is my Guru because I'm serving him. And also I met my Guru at the very beginning stage. Vallabha was 3 months pregnant in my womb, and I met this Guru Maharaj, and he blessed me, blessed my womb, stomach with his Jagannath stick and saying that raise this child in Krishna consciousness. And I said, yes, that is the plan, I will do that. And after receiving the blessing, my Prabhu and I cried so much. And I didn't know why I'm crying. This is the first time I'm meeting this Guru, and I don't even know he will become my Guru. I was just, naturally, His Grace Guru Prabhu, he is our god brother now, and at that time he was just a person that I knew in the temple, one of the persons I knew. He introduced to Guru Maharaj. And my Prabhu and I cried weepingly so much, and I had some connection. I felt like there is some connection, that feeling you will have to one Guru, not everyone. Love at first sight, sometimes you will have that. I had that with my Guru Maharaj. Sometimes we might not experience that. You will listen to so many lectures from so many Guru Maharajas, and one of them might inspire you more than others, and then you might be interested to seek some guidance from them. Then you might take shelter of them. There is a long process, but for me it became a quick process. And I realized I connected all these dots together, and then told my Prabhu, look, we had a feeling towards this Guru Maharaj, and we were serving him in our home unknowingly. That means Krishna is indicating he is our Guru Maharaj. That's how I realized. It was, you could say that is sentimental or fanatical, but for me that was my personal realization and experience, and I am so happy with that decision that I made. So you also pray to Krishna and sincerely hear the lectures of the Gurus that so far you are inspired by. But Guru will guide you. I mean, Krishna will give you Guru, and then Guru will connect you to Krishna. That is Guru Parampara. Does it answer your question?
Yes, Mataji. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you.
Worries. Any other questions from anybody? Okay. So we will stop here. Thank you everyone